If you're in the market for a budget graphics card, odds are AliExpress has been on your mind. But are these graphics cards actually any decent, or should you just avoid AliExpress altogether? Well, I've ordered two GPUs from AliExpress, and here's my experience from ordering to gaming. And if I'm being honest, these deals are the real deal. You see what I did there? I ordered both an RX 5700 XT, which has suspicious Nvidia-esque packaging, and an RX 580 2048 SP, just for some content here on the channel, as I did want to test some AliExpress graphics cards, and after all, there were pretty decent deals. And initially, there were absolutely zero problems ordering both of these graphics cards, and they only took about a week to come via air freight from China. I live in the United Kingdom, so that's a pretty decent turnaround from basically the other side of the world. However though, this experience will vary depending on the seller you buy from. This is because, just like Amazon and eBay, AliExpress is a marketplace, so your experience may vary depending on who you buy from. So just like with any other platform, do your research before buying a graphics card, because that research will serve you well. I'm going to start off with the more powerful of the pair, and this is the RX 5700 XT. And if I'm being honest, my experience with this graphics card was quite a bit better than the RX 580 2048 SP. Despite its Nvidia-esque branding, Milsey actually packaged this GPU pretty well. It was in an anti-static bag, and it got to me in one piece. But what matters even more though is what is the actual card itself like. And it's a pretty beefy 5700 XT with a 2.5 slot cooler, and in my testing it did kind of run slightly loud and it was slightly toasty, but it got the job done, and that's what matters with a graphics card. And it wasn't thermal throttling or anything like that. I wouldn't say it's a concern, I'd say it's more of an observation, is it was showing up as an Asus RX 5700 XT, and originally I thought it was a Asus PCB on this, but after re-evaluation and a few comments in the original video, you lot said it was more likely to be an Asus V-BIOS. So I'm not too sure how Asus feel that their V-BIOSes are being ripped off by someone else, but that's another story. Overall though, this GPU has been totally fine from start to finish, and it's actually running it in my brother's gaming PC right now, and he's had absolutely zero issues with it, so I'd say this one's a pass. Now onto the more concerning graphics card, the RX 580 2048 SP, and I'm going to get the bad news out of the way with to begin with. There is quite a bit of oxidization on the PCB down there, so that's not great to see, because oxidization could potentially short out surface mounted components, which is going to lead to a premature failure of this graphics card. But during my testing, this GPU ran totally fine, both with temps and gaming stability, and I even overclocked it in a video as well, and it was still performing totally fine. So this leads me to believe this isn't a brand new graphics card, which is kind of disappointing. But taking a look at the rest of the graphics card, and the cooler is fairly cheap. It does have an aluminium backplate, which is great to see, and yeah, the cooler isn't the best one in the world, but it is a fairly low wattage graphics card, so I'm not expecting anything too extravagant. In terms of everything else, the packaging was totally fine. It wasn't as good as the Milsey RX 5700 XT, but it was packaged fine and it got here without being bent in half or anything like that, so that's great to see. But obviously that oxidization on the PCB is not good, and I wonder if I could actually file a warranty claim because of that. So a concern I definitely have with AliExpress is warranties, especially with the state of that RX 580 2048 SP. I'm not too sure how much AliExpress, and the sellers especially, will stick to their warranties. There's absolutely no legal obligation for them, to my knowledge. This isn't any but legal advice, I'm not a lawyer or anything, but to my knowledge there's no legal obligation for them to honour a warranty. But one thing I do certainly recommend is using a payment method which has buyer protection, such as PayPal, which I used to buy these graphics cards. How their process is with buyer protection, I'm not too sure, I've never had to use it, but it should be able to help you out in case if you have a graphics card that stops working or an order that just doesn't show up. Just like I said at the start of the video, you need to do your research before you even buy anything. AliExpress is a marketplace with multiple different sellers, just like eBay and Amazon. And even with those sites, I recommend doing your research before you even hand over any money. Just because my buying experience today was very good for the most part, doesn't mean that your buying experience will be if you were to buy from a different seller. So this is always something you need to keep in mind. The golden rule that I always follow when buying stuff from sites like Amazon, eBay, and even AliExpress is if it's too good to be true, it usually is. So if you see an RTX 4090 for like $100, that's obviously going to be something like a GT 520 or something that isn't an RTX 4090, put it that way. But of course, this doesn't mean you cannot find a good deal, because I found 2 decent deals on these graphics cards, even though this one is a bit concerning, but that's beyond the point. You can definitely find some decent deals on AliExpress, especially with GPUs like these two and Intel Xeon motherboard combos, which I might make a video on sometime in the future, so make sure you stay subscribed for that. So I think it's fair to say, if you're in the market for a budget graphics card or maybe even a budget CPU motherboard combo, because there are quite a lot of Xeon combos, AliExpress is actually kind of a decent option in my opinion, just as long as you do your research with each individual seller and each individual graphics card, truth be known, you should be able to get quite a decent deal, like $140-ish I paid for the RX 5700 XT. I think that is an absolutely brilliant deal for 1080p and maybe even 1440p gaming. But the point I can't emphasize enough is do your research. If something's too good to be true, it usually is. So if you want to see how both of these graphics cards get on in gaming, there are 2 videos over there. Thanks for watching, I'll catch you in the next one.